The medical bay of the Celestial Harmony hummed with its usual sterile efficiency when Madeline first encountered the Vrexian cub. The small creature, no larger than a house cat, lay curled on the examination table, its iridescent fur dulled by fever. Its guardian, Commander Zixthor, towered over the bed with forearms crossed in evident distress. "The physicians say there is nothing more they can do," the commander rumbled, his translator struggling with the emotion in his voice. "They have administered every medication in our database." Madeline knelt beside the table, her practiced eye assessing the young alien. She'd been the human medical liaison aboard the Coalition flagship for 8 months now, long enough to recognize when advanced alien medicine had reached its limits, and when a simpler solution might work. "Has he been drinking enough fluids?" she asked gently. "The IV provides adequate hydration," Zixthor replied, confused by the primitive question. Madeline smiled. "That's not quite what I meant." She stood and headed toward her personal quarters. "Give me 10 minutes." When she returned, she carried a steaming mug that filled the corridor with an aroma the ship's environmental systems had never processed before. The scent of chamomile, honey, and lemon wound through the recycled air like a gentle melody. "What is this substance?" Zixthor's sensory appendages twitched with interest and suspicion. "Tea," Madeline said simply. "An earth remedy. My grandmother swore by it." She carefully lifted the cub's head and brought the mug to its small mouth. "Just a few sips, little one." The cub's eyes fluttered open, 6 of them arranged in 2 rows. Its nose wrinkled, then it tentatively lapped at the liquid. A moment passed. Then another. The cub took a longer drink, and a soft purring sound emerged from its throat. Within an hour, the cub's fever had broken. Within 3, it was playfully pouncing on Zixthor's tail. Word spread through the fleet like wildfire. 2 days later, Brandon stood at the entrance to Madeline's quarters, his hand hovering over the door chime. The human engineer had become her closest friend aboard the Celestial Harmony, but even he looked skeptical about what he was about to report. "You need to see this," he said when she opened the door. The medical bay had transformed into something resembling a carnival. A line of aliens stretched from the entrance, wound through 3 corridors, and disappeared around a corner. There were Vrexians, Calathans, Zephrons, and species Madeline couldn't even name. They all claimed to be sick, Brandon said, barely suppressing a grin. "Every single one." Madeline approached the first patient, a massive Garanthian warrior whose species could survive in the vacuum of space. "What seems to be the problem?" "I have a cough," the warrior said, then produced the most pathetically fake cough Madeline had ever heard. "Very severe. I believe I need tea." Behind him, a Calathan engineer nodded enthusiastically. "Yes, I also have this cough. And perhaps fatigue? I have heard tea is good for fatigue." By noon, Madeline had given up on maintaining the pretense. She set up a large dispensing station in the commissary with Brandon's help, installing her electric kettle and arranging her precious stores of earth tea. She'd brought a modest supply from home, green tea, black tea, herbal blends, never imagining she'd need to supply an entire fleet. "This is Earl Grey," she explained to a group of Zephron pilots gathered around her makeshift tea bar. "It has bergamot, which gives it a citrusy flavor. This one is peppermint, good for digestion. And this," she held up a tin of jasmine green tea, "is my personal favorite." The aliens sampled each variety with the solemnity of wine connoisseurs. They debated flavor profiles in a dozen languages. The Vrexian tactical officer declared that chamomile spoke to his warrior's soul. A Calathan engineer composed a 17-verse poem about the transcendent experience of honey, lemon ginger tea. "This is insane," Brandon laughed, watching a group of hardened space marines argue passionately about whether loose leaf or bagged tea was superior. "You've created a tea cult." "I've created a problem," Madeline sighed, eyeing her dwindling supplies. "I have maybe 2 weeks of tea left, and there are 3,000 crew members on this ship." The solution came from an unexpected source. Captain Vortash, the fleet commander whose species resembled an armored octopus, appeared in the commissary that evening. The conversations hushed as he approached Madeline's station. "Dr. Madeline," his voice resonated through his translator, "I have sampled this tea. It is remarkable." He paused, his tentacles curling in what she'd learned was a gesture of respect. "I wish to understand. This is not medicine, not truly, yet it provides comfort. How?" Madeline considered the question carefully. "On Earth we have a saying, Sometimes the cure isn't in the medicine, but in the caring. Tea is something you make for someone when they need comfort. It's warm, it's gentle, it takes time to prepare. It says, "You matter enough for me to stop and care for you." Vortash's tentacles rippled in understanding. We have technology that can heal wounds instantaneously, regenerate limbs, cure diseases that would have killed our ancestors, but we have forgotten how to provide comfort. He tapped a command into his wrist device. "I am authorizing a detour to the Terran Agriculture Station at Kepler 442. We will procure sufficient supplies of these tea leaves for the entire fleet. Consider it essential equipment." As Vortash departed, Brandon leaned over to Madeline. "You know what you've done, right? This is going to spread to every ship in the Coalition, then every station, every colony." Madeline watched a Vrexian warrior carefully steep his chamomile tea, timing it with military precision, while a Calithan engineer explained to him the importance of water temperature. In the corner, Commander Zixthor sat with his now healthy cub, sharing a pot of mint tea. "Good," she said softly. "The galaxy could use a little more comfort." 3 months later, tea ceremonies had become standard protocol during diplomatic negotiations. 6 months after that, tea breaks were mandatory on all Coalition vessels. Within a year, humanity's greatest contribution to galactic civilization wasn't their weapons, their engineering, or their tactical prowess. It was teaching the galaxy how to pause, brew a cup of tea, and remember that sometimes the most advanced technology was simply taking time to care. And it all started because Madeline made tea for one sick cub who needed comfort more than medicine. End.